Hi, this is a lesson on the major muscles. I hope you guys are having a good week. Look forward to seeing you guys next week, Monday. First thing is I'm going to go over the major muscles. Then we'll go over what the actions are, and then we'll go over a couple other little things as well. Okay? So, First, we're going to start with the major muscles. You had a diagram that you labeled, so I thought I'd just go over it with you. So we'll start with the trapezius. The trapezius are the muscles that come up like kind of in the neck or the lower neck here. So your trapezius goes here all the way around, and I'll show you in the back here. So the trapezius actually makes a triangle, I guess, if you could say, here all the way down to the mid of the back. Your deltoid is your shoulder muscle here. You have one on each side. Pectoralis major is superficial. If you hide this, when you do the visual body app, you would hide this. There's a button that says hide, and you would see another small muscle underneath called the pectoralis minor. Then you have your biceps, which is, remember, anatomical position is thumbs out, so that's the front of the arm. Then you have your rectus abdominis. If you're seeing this, I call it the six-pack, that's your rectus abdominis, and the external oblique has been removed. Then you have your quadriceps. There's 4 muscles, which we'll learn in a little bit. So that's all the front. And the back, again, the deltoid, which you can see, trapezius, I went over that already. The back of the arm here, you have your triceps. Most of your back is latissimus dorsi, so that'd be all of this, other than everything other than the trapezius. The gluteus maximus, your hamstrings, we'll go over those specifically in a minute, and your calf is the gastrocnemius. So talking about your hamstrings, so there's 3 muscles I want you guys to learn about the hamstrings. The one that's closest to the middle is a semimembranosus. I remember this because a lot of M's in the middle. Semimembranosus is the one in the middle. Okay, right next to the semimembranosus is the semitendinosus. So it's membranosus, and actually this and this little piece right here is all the membranosus. Then you have the semitendinosus here, and the bicep femoris, which is this muscle here. And then quads, quad means 4, so there's 4 major muscles that you were going to learn. The one that's not listed is the sartorius. It kind of loops around like an S, so it starts with an S. So you have the small, skinny sartorius. You have the vastus lateralis, lateral, right? So vastus lateralis is the one that's most lateral. The vastus medialis is one that's closest to the middle. And in between those two, you have the rectus femoris. The reason the femoris for femur. So now we're going to get into the different actions. So I'll kind of give you an example of different ones. So the first one is called, so these are all, so different muscles perform different actions. These things you do when you play sports, when you're exercising, or just on a daily basis. So the first one's called circumduction. It's any time you have a circular motion. You can see this picture here. You can see his arms going around. That's something that you probably did in like elementary school, like to warm up. You put your arms around, your leg can go around in a circle. Maybe soccer would do a lot of these things. Pitching, if you're or softball, at least. Your arm is constantly going in circumduction. So anything from the joint where you're doing a circular motion, including like hula hooping, would be another example. So circumduction, circumduction. Then we have protraction. Protraction is anytime the body is moving forward. So forward, protraction. This is an interesting picture because he's doing his chin. But I mean, if you think about a lot of things like soccer, it'd be like when the foot comes forward to kick the ball. For baseball or softball, it'd be like throwing when your arm goes forward. If you're doing a sit-up, like it'd be when your body is going upward. So anytime anything or any single body is going forward. So you have protraction. What you're going to notice now is they're a lot in pairs and they're opposites. So protraction's going forward. The next one's going to be going posterior. So retraction. So protraction was going forward, retraction's going backwards. An example of that is when you're throwing, when you pull your arm back to throw, or soccer when you're pulling your leg back before you kick it forward. Anytime you see, or batting, like when you put the bat backwards, or anytime things are going backwards. The next one's elevation. This is anytime things are going upward. So it could be like your arms, anytime you raise your arms up. It could be when your legs are lifting up. I know push-ups, when you elevate your body upward. That would be another example. Elevation, the opposite of that be depression. So once you're here, it'd be depression, be going down. Like I know there's an exercise where you have like the dumbbells on each side, and you would elevation and depression would just go when you go downward. So elevation, anytime anything goes up, depression, down. Okay, so flex. We know when you flex, like you're showing your muscle, but flexion, the actual definition is a decreasing of angle of articulating bones. Just so you know, articulating bones, just saying joint. It's a fancy word for joint. So anytime you have an angle and you're decreasing that angle. So like if you were kicking, it'd be like when you lift your leg up. So like the joint would be like where the knee is. So anytime you go from a straight line and you're bending it. So this is a really good example. This would be like flexing. So it started off as a straight line and you decrease the angle of the elbow to make it go upward. Flexion. And the other one would be extension. So now that you're here, it'd be going downward. So flexion, extension, flexion. This would also fit in with sit-ups. Like your waist would be like the joint and it'd be like going upward and back down. So extension is when it's straight or you're increasing the angle. You're in this angle here, and flexion is when you're decreasing it. Supination is anytime you turn the body outward. An example of that is usually with the wrist is what you're going to see. So you'll see like people actually taking their and then turning the wrist outward. So supination is when you rotate the body parts outward. So supination, so out. Pronation would be turning the body in. So if you had your wrist, you'd be turning it in. If you had, like this is what this example is. So anytime, I know with another thing would be, so anytime like if you're pushing your legs towards inside. Abduction is moving away from the middle. So think of your belly button. Anytime anything's going away from that, there's actual machines at the gym where you sit and you actually abduction machine. You push your legs outward and it works your outer thighs. So abduction, and then adduction, 2 Ds, would be going towards the midline. So abduction is going away from the midline. Adduction goes towards the midline. Okay, so that's all for the actions. Now we're going to talk about your bone attachment. So your muscles attach to bone, to 2 different bones, so, and sometimes 3, but I'll talk in a minute. So you have the origin, so that's where the muscle is going to attach closer to the middle of your body, and you have the insertion, which is further away. So you can see, so a muscle is attached to bones with a tendon. So this would be your muscle. So this here would be your insertion. So this is your bicep. Your insertion would be the radius, right? So you can see where it attaches to the radius. And then the origin would come in actually to the clavicle. So you can kind of see where it comes in towards the clavicle there. Okay, so origin, the bone attached to the muscle that does not move very little. It's proximal to the trunk. So always think your belly button. So your origin would be the bone that was closest to your belly button. It's where the muscle kind of begins, so there's not a lot of movement. The insertion is the bone that it's attached to that's distal to the trunk, so further away from the belly button. This is what's doing all the movement during muscle contraction. So your muscles will move this way. So this would be like the insertion. This is the origin. Origin doesn't really move over here. This is the movable end. So the muscle will contract from the insertion towards the origin. I just wanted to show you this picture here. So this is the pectoralis major. The origin, this is one of the few that the origin you have more than one. So the origin closest to the belly, right? So it's going to be your clavicle and your sternum. So this is where it attaches here. And then the insertion, so this is the non-movable end. The muscles doesn't really work here. The movable end, so that insertion would be the humerus. So it attaches to the humerus. So when you're contracting, just imagine like your arm maybe coming in for adduction. You can see like the muscle will contract this way. Movement is always a pull. The insertion of the bone is drawn towards the origin. So it's like I kind of told you. So let's say during flexion, your radius goes towards the clavicle. So this is the movable end, goes towards the non-movable end. So muscles often work in pairs, and they actually say when you exercise, Because of blood flow, it's best to work the two muscles together because the blood's already here and it's easy to go to here. So it's you use less energy, I guess. But anyways, as one muscle is contracting, the other one relaxes. So in other words, when the bicep is contracting, the tricep is relaxing. It's the antagonist, while this is your agonist. So for instance, during flexion, so when you're doing flexion, decreasing the angle, your bicep would be contracting, your tricep would be relaxing. Quad and hamstring, same thing. If this is contracting, this is relaxing, and vice versa. Deltoid and latissimus dorsi, so that'd be like the shoulder versus the back. And then the pectoralis major and the trapezius, so same idea. They, as one is contracting, the other one's relaxing. You really will see that during the dissection. So the exercise project is something you'll do later in the week. You work in pairs. I already told you who your partners are. Some groups of 3. And then for each of these muscles, if I can get them on here. I don't know why I started there, but for each of the muscles, you'll see it on canvas. You will have to tell me the action that you're doing, and tell me the insertion origin, and kind of describe what's going on. Okay, so that's it. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. If you have any questions, send me a message on Remind or on Canvas.